Hey everyone, before we begin, please subscribe to my channel for more stories like this. Your support truly means the world. She only grabbed the stranger to disappear from her ex for 5 seconds. She didn't know she'd just put her lips on the most feared man in Chicago. The ballroom at the Drake Hotel was too loud that night. The kind of loud that comes from too much champagne and too many people pretending to like each other. Chloe Thompson stood near the wall. With a glass she wasn't really drinking, running her hands down the emerald velvet dress she'd finally felt beautiful in. 28 years old, a sharp accountant at one of the city's biggest logistics firms, and for once she'd looked in the mirror and liked what she saw. Curvy, soft, proud of it. Then she saw him, Derek, her ex, the man who'd spent 3 years picking her apart piece by piece, commenting on her plates, calling it concern, reminding her constantly that someone built like her should be grateful anyone wanted her at all. Leaving him had been the hardest thing she'd ever done, especially after the night he put his fist through a wall 2 feet from her head. He was supposed to be in New York. Instead, he was standing by the ice sculpture, and the second his eyes found her, that same cruel smile crept across his face. He started walking toward her. Chloe didn't think. She just moved. Through the crowd, past the bar, through a set of heavy doors into a quiet side hallway meant for hotel guests. Behind her, his voice echoed off the walls, calling her name, telling her not to be dramatic. The hallway was empty. No exits. No place to disappear, except one shadowed alcove where a tall man stood with his back to her, studying a painting like he had nowhere else to be. She didn't think. She grabbed him by the lapels, spun him around and kissed him. She expected him to shove her off. Instead, his hands closed around her waist and pulled her in. It wasn't the kind of kiss that stays polite. His mouth was warm, tasted like whiskey and mint, and within seconds he'd taken it over completely, like he'd been waiting for exactly this. His hands spread wide against her back, holding her like her curves were something to be grateful for, not hidden. Derek's footsteps rushed past the alcove without slowing. He never even glanced in. When Chloe finally pulled back, gasping, lipstick smeared, she started apologizing before she even looked up. "I'm so sorry. There was a man, my ex." I panicked. Then she looked up. The face staring down at her looked carved out of something colder than marble. Sharp cheekbones, a jaw built for arguments he always won, eyes so dark they barely reflected light. Gorgeous. And underneath it, something quiet and dangerous, like standing too close to a fire that hadn't decided yet whether to warm you or burn you. "Is that so?" he said, low and unreadable. That's when she heard it. The synchronized click of safeties coming off, a dozen of them. 6 men in black suits stepped out of the shadows of a nearby suite, guns raised, every one of them aimed at her. "Boss," one of them said, flat and businesslike. "Want me to handle her?" Chloe stopped breathing. She looked back at the man she'd just kissed, and finally placed the name she'd only ever heard whispered in her office in fear. Vincent Moretti, heir to the most untouchable crime family in the Midwest. The kind of man who owned judges instead of arguing with them. He raised one hand. The guns disappeared as fast as they'd come out. "Stand down," he said, eyes never leaving her. She was just hiding. Chloe mumbled something about having to go and fled back into the ballroom without looking back. If she had, she would have seen him touch his own lip, smiling like he'd just found something he intended to keep. 3 days passed. 3 days of Chloe jumping at shadows, double-locking her door, flinching at every black SUV that rolled down her street. She told herself she was being paranoid. A billionaire crime boss had better things to do than think about an accountant who'd ambushed him for 5 seconds. Derek, though, wasn't done. He'd found out she was at the gala. 40-something missed calls, emails to her work account. A dozen dead black roses left on her desk, with a note calling her a name she wouldn't repeat. She was exhausted in a way sleep couldn't fix. It was raining the night she finally left the office late, coat pulled tight, just wanting to get home and disappear into her own apartment for a few hours. She let herself into the lobby. "Hello, Piggy." Her whole body went cold. Derek was sitting on the lobby couch like he owned it, eyes bloodshot, coffee cup in hand. "How did you get in here?" she demanded, backing toward the door. He stood, blocking her path. "For what?" "Calling the police." "I'm just talking to my fiancé, ex-fiancé. We're done, Derek. It's been 6 months. We're done when I say we're done." He lunged, grabbing her arm hard enough to bruise, yanking her close. "You think you can do better than me? Look at you. No one else is ever going to want you. You belong to me." Tears burned in her eyes, not just from the pain, but because some small broken part of her still believed him. "Let her go." The voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It came from the shadows near the mailboxes, and it landed like a verdict. Derek turned. 2 enormous men in dark suits stepped into the light first, and then the man between them, Vincent Moretti. He looked almost bored, an unlit cigarette between his fingers. Except his eyes were locked on Derek's hand, still wrapped around Chloe's arm, and in them was a promise of something very bad. "Who the hell are you?" Derek tried to sound tough. His voice cracked on the last word. Vincent didn't even look at him. He snapped his fingers, the scarred man from the hotel, Matteo, crossed the lobby in a blur and twisted Derek's wrist until it snapped. Derek screamed and dropped to his knees, cradling his arm, sobbing. Chloe stumbled back against the wall, stunned. Vincent walked over, stepping past Derek like he was nothing more than a stain on the carpet, and stopped in front of her. Up close he smelled the same as she remembered, expensive whiskey, something warm underneath. He reached out slowly. She flinched. "Open your eyes," he said quietly. She did. "He called you fat," Vincent said, gaze dropping briefly to the curves beneath her coat. "Said no one would want you." Shame burned through her fear. "Please, just let me go upstairs." He stepped closer instead, cupping her jaw, tilting her face up to his. "Hurt you? You used a mob boss as a human shield, and then ran from me, Chloe Thompson. I've spent 3 days looking for you." His thumb brushed her bottom lip. "Now that I've found you, I intend to remind you exactly how much a man can want every part of you." Behind them, Derek moaned in pain. Vincent didn't spare him a glance. "Matteo," he said, "get the trash out of my building. If he comes within 10 miles of what's mine again, take the other hand too." Going from a rain-soaked apartment lobby to a penthouse on Lakeshore Drive felt like waking up in someone else's life. Chloe hadn't packed a bag. She hadn't even locked her front door. Vincent had simply wrapped his coat around her shoulders and put her in the back of an armored car. Now she sat on the edge of a bed the size of her old bedroom, staring at a tray of pastries she hadn't touched. "You haven't eaten," Vincent said from the doorway. He'd traded the suit jacket for a black shirt, sleeves rolled up, forearms covered in ink that felt at odds with the penthouse around them, a reminder of exactly what had built this life. "I'm not hungry," she lied, arms wrapping around her stomach, an old habit Derek had trained into her. "Mr. Moretti, I have a job, a life. I can't stay here." He crossed the room without hurrying, stopping right in front of her, and gently pulled her arms away from her body. "You're hiding again," he said. "No one is going to make you shrink yourself in this house. Derek is a dead man walking, if he ever says your name again." He knelt in front of her, ruining an expensive pair of slacks on the hardwood without a second thought, and rested his hands on her thighs. "Men like him go after women who carry real power because it scares them," he said. "Your body isn't something to apologize for. It's not a flaw to manage. It's yours, and it's magnificent." A tear slipped down her cheek before she could stop it. 3 years of being told her body was a problem to solve, and now the most dangerous man in the city was on his knees in front of her, like she was something to be worshipped, not fixed. He stood, pulling her up with him, and led her to a closet full of clothes, every piece tailored specifically to fit her, not in spite of her curves, but built around them. A velvet box sat on the center island with a diamond necklace inside. "This is too much," she said. "I'm just an accountant." "You're mine," he said simply, "and the woman standing next to me wears whatever she wants. Get dressed. Tonight the whole city sees you." What he didn't tell her, what he kept buried under gifts and attention, was the war brewing underneath the city's surface. Downstairs, in the guarded basement office, Matteo laid it out plainly. The Russo family knows about the girl, boss. They know you brought her here. How? Her ex. Turns out the banker owes the Russos $500,000 in gambling debts. After we broke his wrist in that lobby, he ran straight to Tommy Russo and sold them Chloe's name. Told them she's your weak spot. The glass in Vincent's hand shattered. Weakness, he repeated, and the smile that followed was worse than any shout. Double the guards. Load the hollow points. If the Russos want to try something tonight, let them. Dinner at the restaurant was quiet, luxury. Chloe couldn't fully enjoy too, aware of Vincent beside her in a midnight blue tuxedo, his hand resting on her knee under the table. "You're quiet," he said. "3 days ago I was scared of my own shadow," she admitted. "Now I'm in a dress that costs more than my car, having dinner with a man who owns half the city." She met his eyes. "Am I just something you keep, Vincent?" His playful edge disappeared. "You're not a pet, Chloe. If you want out right now, I'll put you in a car with more money than you'll ever need, and you'll never see me again. But if you stay as my equal." Before she could answer, the doors blew open. 3 men in leather jackets stormed in with automatic weapons raised. Vincent moved before she could blink, flipping the heavy table and covering her body with his own as gunfire tore through the room. Glass exploded. Plaster rained from the ceiling. She screamed into his chest while he held her down, steady, unshaken. From the hallway, Matteo and 4 more of Vincent's men returned fire. It was over in under 30 seconds. 3 bodies on the floor. Vincent hauled her up, running his hands over her quickly, checking for injuries with something close to panic. "Are you hurt? Talk to me." "I'm okay," she managed, shaking. "Bring him in," Vincent called. Matteo dragged in a bloodied, sobbing figure, Derek, missing a shoe, barely able to stand. "Chloe, please," he begged. "The Russos said they'd kill me if I didn't tell them where you were." She looked at him, the man who'd spent years making her hate her own reflection, now on his knees in broken glass, and felt nothing but disgust. Vincent pulled his gun and pressed it to Derek's forehead. "You sold what's mine," he said, flat and terrifying. "Give me one reason not to end this right here." "Vincent, wait." Chloe's voice cut through the room. Every man there froze. No one interrupted the boss mid-execution. She stepped through the broken glass and looked down at Derek. "You told me I was nothing without you. Look at you now. You're a coward who sold me out to save your own skin." She turned to Vincent. "Don't kill him in here. It'll ruin my dress." Vincent's breath caught, and a slow, proud smile spread across his face, like she'd just handed him something priceless. "Matteo, take Mr. Gallagher to the docks. Make sure he understands what he owes." Derek screamed the whole way out until the door shut behind him, and the room went quiet. Vincent stepped close, cupping her face. "You didn't run. I'm done running," she said, gripping his wrists, pressing herself against him. "You promised I wouldn't have to hide anymore." He kissed her, fierce, certain, tasting like gunpowder, and something that felt a lot like devotion. "Never again," he murmured against her lips. "You're the one who stands beside me now. Let anyone try to look down on you. I'll burn this whole city down before I let that happen." She kissed him back, and for the first time in years, she wasn't hiding from anything at all. She'd grabbed a stranger in a hallway just to disappear for 5 seconds. Instead, she found the one person who made sure she never had to disappear again. If this one had you hooked, let us know in the comments. Would you have taken the deal?